criticism that he doesn't fully support President Trump. That is a key issue in this midterm race here, Steve.
All right, Jeff Bennett on the ground there in West Virginia. Jeff, thanks for that. Let's dig deeper into the politics around the president's Supreme Court pick. David French is a senior writer at the National Review. Cornell Belcher is an MSNBC political analyst. He's also with Brilliant Corners Research. Thanks to both of you for being with us. And Cornell, let me start with you. Let's take Joe Manchin. We just got an update from West Virginia. I hear all of the arguments that Democrats, that activists on the left are making about, trying to stop the names that are on this list that's circulating so far. But when you're looking at Joe Manchin, if you're a Democratic activist trying to get Manchin to vote against a Trump nominee as he faces the voters in a state that Trump just won by 42 points, what's the best argument politically? What's the best argument you can make to get a guy like Manchin over against a Trump nominee?
Well, I don't think you don't play small ball, right? And I don't think this is about just one race, right? I think, look, the numbers are what the numbers are, and there is a battle here in the Senate where Republicans control the Senate. They can ultimately probably win this battle, and ultimately lose the war, right? When you're looking at NBC SurveyMonkey, just out, I think 64% of women are against the overturn of Roe v. Wade. That is not even close. And when you look at younger women, that number approaches 70%. There is no national mandate, particularly among women voters, for overturning Roe v. Wade, and particularly among suburban women. It's problematic. Look, see, when you look at the special elections that have been happening in this country so far, and look at how Democrats have flipped seats, especially in state ledge houses, they're happening primarily in Republican areas because of suburban women turning, right? If you think that this is helpful to Republicans with suburban, white, college-educated women, it's going to be really problematic.
Well, let me, it's interesting because we've got, and from the poll here, you just mentioned one of the findings, it's things that are sort of, they can appear contradictory when you look at public attitude. So we mentioned this, Democrats have been out there saying, you got to delay this vote till after the election. It's their only way, maybe, or one of their only ways of trying to get a more moderate nominee. And when you poll that question, no, voters by basically a 2-to-1 margin are saying, no, we want this thing voted on before the midterm election. But then, as Cornell says, when you ask folks that issue of Roe versus Wade, do you want Roe to be upheld or overturned? Again, it's a 2-to-1 margin. They want it upheld. They do not want to see it overturned. And Democrats are saying, hey, a quick confirmation here means it's going to be overturned. Let me turn it to you, David French, on the Republican side. The name that's getting the most attention right now is Susan Collins from Maine. She's out there saying if she sees a nominee who is hostile to Roe, she's not going to vote for that nominee. When you see a poll saying 2-to-1, voters want Roe upheld, does that embolden Susan Collins to vote against a Trump nominee?
No, I don't think so. No nominee is going to go in front of the committee and say, I'm going to vote to overturn Roe. They're going to be very careful, as they've been for years, in describing how they're going to rule on cases that might come before the court. They're not going to talk about how they're going to rule on cases that might come before the court. And the polling on Roe, it's really all over the place. If you look at polling on abortion, people say they like Roe, and then they'll turn around and say they like restrictions that Roe doesn't permit. So the polling there is all over the place. But I will tell you, there's a poll that really matters. And the poll that really matters were the election results in the 2016 presidential race and the election results in the 2016 Senate races that in 2014 that gave Republicans the majority. And you talk again and again and again to base Republican voters, the evangelicals who put Donald Trump over the top. What they want is an originalist Supreme Court justice who's not remotely afraid to overturn Roe. So we can look at polling numbers all we want. The really important polling numbers are the election results.
The election results that, quite frankly, your guy did not get a plurality of the support on. But the polling number does matter. Look, and you can play fast and cute with the numbers. Look, there are, when you ask them, are they for pro-abortion? No one's pro-abortion, and Democrats shouldn't be fighting that they're pro-abortion. However, the idea that we're going to have a court that's going to take women's reproductive rights away from them, that makes this a real issue to a lot of women who beforehand had not been paying attention to it. And if you think that those 60-some% of women aren't now paying attention to this, and they're gonna vote in these, I think you're handing over Congress and probably the Senate.
Let me ask you this, Cornell, because the one particular candidate here who's been getting a lot of attention and then attacks, I think, scrutiny from the left, attacks from the left, including Chuck Schumer yesterday, was Amy Coney Barrett. Is there a concern politically that on this issue of Roe, if there is a conservative woman who gets picked for the court and she ends up being seen as the deciding vote on a case involving Roe, on some kind of abortion case, that is more politically risky for Democrats to have a woman go on there, and, an accomplished woman with all of her credentials and play that role? Does that change the message Democrats are trying to say?
It could be a woman, it could be a man. The bottom line is she a vote to overturn Roe? And if she is, that's problematic for the vast majority of women in this country, whether it's a man or a woman. They don't want Roe overturned. And look, the president was very clear on this. He wants Roe overturned. He said it time and time after again on the campaign trail. Now I know he lied, but I think we can believe him on this.
And David, in terms of Amy Coney Barrett, what do you think the effect these attacks are having? Do you think folks in the White House are saying, you know what, we got plenty of choices here, let's not take a chance? Or does it embolden Trump to say, hey, this is the one they don't want, let me do it?
I think it might embolden Trump, and I'll tell you why. Because absolutely, Amy Barrett she is qualified. Her credentials are sterling. She's at the top of her field. And then the attacks on her by the Democrats were so over the top, imposing a religious test on her office. This statement by Dianne Feinstein that the dogma lives loudly within you. Not only does that demonstrate that there wasn't a credible attack on her from merits, it provides a rallying cry for conservative voters. It provides a rallying cry for Christian conservative voters who helped put Donald Trump in the White House. And here's what I'd say about Roe. It's a monstrous precedent. It absolutely should be overturned. And look, if it's overturned and overwhelming numbers of women want to protect the right to abortion, then they can go vote in state elections and have the states decide where it should be decided constitutionally, not by the court in Roe.
That's outside the mainstream. We got to leave it there, but thank you. A spirited discussion. I appreciate both of you being a part of it. And Michael Cohen, Paul Manafort, and Michael Flynn, all the president's men. Next.
Hi, honey. We're out for lunch.
Okay, baby, have fun.
To help protect your identity, LifeLock sees more, like your personal information on the dark web. And now with the power of Norton, we detect threats like ransomware too, to help protect your identity and devices. Plus, if there's an identity theft problem, we'll work to fix it with our $1 million protection package. Get new LifeLock with Norton, starting at $9.99 a month.
Mary and Shirley both need oxygen. Shirley lost her freedom the day she went on oxygen. Mary has the brand new ultra-compact Inogen 1 G4 oxygen concentrator from Inogen. It's the smallest and lightest model we've ever made. Shirley is forced to miss out on everyday activities. Mary fully enjoys her life. Shirley has to wait for tank deliveries and worries about running out of oxygen. But Mary's Inogen 1 G4 makes its own oxygen, so she'll always have the oxygen she needs anytime, anywhere. Shirley finally listened to Mary and now has more freedom too. It's time for you to reclaim your freedom and independence with the Inogen 1 G4. Act now to start your 30-day risk-free trial. This is a limited time offer, so don't wait and don't accept substitutions. The sooner you call, the sooner you can say goodbye to heavy oxygen tanks for good and reclaim the freedom and independence you deserve. Call now for your 30-day risk-free trial. Call 800-747-0953. If you're moderate to severe ulcerative colitis or Crohn's symptoms are holding you back, and your current treatment hasn't
Yeah, fucking shit.
it may be time for a change. Ask your doctor about Entyvio, the only biologic developed and approved just for UC and Crohn's. Entyvio blocks the site of inflammation in the GI tract and is clinically proven to help many patients achieve both symptom relief and remission. Infusion and serious allergic reactions can happen during or after treatment. Entyvio may increase risk of infection, which can be serious. PML, a rare, serious, potentially fatal brain infection caused by a virus, may be possible. This condition has not been reported with Entyvio. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, experience frequent infections, or have flu-like symptoms or sores. Liver problems can occur with Entyvio. If your Crohn's treatment isn't working for you, ask your gastroenterologist about Entyvio. Entyvio, relief and remission within reach.
At Airport Home Appliance, better, you save big during our July 4th store-wide sale. We want you to spend your holiday weekend with family, which is why we're offering unbeatable deals starting now. Come in today and get up to 40% off appliances and up to 65% off mattresses. Plus, you get up to 18 months 0% financing and free delivery on select items. Don't wait until 4th of July weekend. Shop now at Airport Home Appliance. Unbeatable price, selection, and people.
At the Marine Mammal Center, the environment is everything. We want to do our very best for each and every animal, and we want to operate a sustainable facility. And PG&E has been a partner helping us to achieve that.
We've helped the Marine Mammal Center go solar, install electric vehicle charging stations, and become more energy efficient.
PG&E has allowed us to be the most sustainable organization we can be.
Anytime you help a customer, it's a really good feeling. It's especially so when it's a customer that's doing such good and important work for the environment.
Together, we're building a better California.
The deadline for attorneys involved in Michael Cohen's case to review documents seized in those FBI raids is now a week away. Just yesterday, Donald Trump's fixer broke his silence in an interview with ABC News, where he addressed the question of his loyalty to the president. He said, quote, "My wife, my daughter, and my son have my first loyalty and always will." Going on to say, "I put family and country first." Those new comments from Cohen have led to increased speculation that Trump's longtime lawyer could flip. But today, former White House Communications Director Anthony Scaramucci insisted the interview was more about Cohen protecting his own reputation.
Michael's trying to get out there and send a message to people that he's not a demon. No need to demonize me. I'm not a bad person. I was trying to do my job to serve then Mr. Trump and then candidate Trump.
Joined now by Natasha Bertrand, staff writer at The Atlantic and an MSNBC contributor, and Tom Dupree, a former Deputy Attorney General and lawyer for George W. Bush. Tom, just on the legal thing here, it's been about 24 hours since this Cohen interview. The dust has settled a little bit. That basic question there, was this a PR move to sort of help his image in the court of public opinion, or was this a legal strategy? Is it any clearer now what he was trying to do there?
I'm not sure it's any clearer, but I will say this. I do not think Michael Cohen was speaking off the cuff. I think this was a very calculated statement to put out there. If you look at the way Michael Cohen has evolved, it is notable. You remember, he was the guy who said he would take a bullet for President Trump. He has now evolved to a position where he is saying, I have to put my family first. I don't think that's an accident. I think he is sending a signal either to people in the administration or possibly to folks in DOJ.
I thought I was in the sand and didn't account for the fucking penalty.
Not necessarily, but there's definitely a shift in position as far as Michael Cohen is concerned.
And Natasha, the clock seems to be ticking on Michael Cohen's legal situation. You've also got Michael Flynn apparently is due in court in a week for a status hearing there. Are we getting any signals and indications here about what this means in terms of the status of the Mueller investigation?
Well, my sources tell me that the Mueller investigation is going to continue to ramp up through the summer. Of course, we're expecting his obstruction report on whether or not the president tried to obstruct the Russia investigation by midsummer or end of summer. So this is obviously a really intense moment for the investigation. Michael Cohen, of course, is under a lot of pressure because he is under a lot of financial strain. The legal bills are pretty much insurmountable at this point. His family is, of course, under a lot of pressure as well. And now Michael Flynn, his sentencing has been delayed about 3 times. And the judge in that case asking Michael Flynn's attorney and the special counsel, well, what's the holdup? Because it is very unusual that his sentencing has been delayed for this long, which of course is an indication that he is continuing to cooperate with the special counsel. So all indications are that this is a very pivotal moment for the investigation, and it remains to be seen how it's going to play out with regard to Michael Cohen flipping on the president or not.
And when you say that report by the end of the summer, is Mueller's team there working with an eye on that midterm election calendar, that tradition of having, about a 60 window there, trying to create some kind of buffer to get this report out not too close to the election? Is that factoring into the timing here?
There are a few different opinions on this. Some say that Mueller will be very wary of the fact that the elections are coming up and will want to wrap up the investigation before that. Others say that he will not be subjected to the kind of political pressure that comes with wrapping up an investigation by November, because of course it is a very complicated probe, especially especially with regard to the collusion aspect of it. The obstruction aspect is a bit more straightforward, especially because they have at their disposal many of the president's statements that he's made on Twitter and TV interviews, etc. Whereas the collusion aspect of the investigation, it spans multiple countries. You're working with a hostile foreign government. There are a number of different players involved. So whether or not he fully completes the collusion investigation by the fall or releases a report that concludes at least one big aspect of the investigation, perhaps releasing an indictment, that is also something that we don't know. But it is something that it is on his radar, according to the people that I speak to that know him.
And Tom, just in terms of Michael Cohen's legal situation too, there's that issue of those documents that were seized and the government having access to them. Just how does that complicate the situation too?
Well, it complicates it because at the end of the day, no one can say right now for certainty which of these documents will ultimately be turned over to DOJ and ultimately admissible in a proceeding against Mr. Cohen or against others. It sounds like we're coming to the end of this document review process. It sounds as though the vast majority of documents that were seized in the DOJ raid are going to be deemed not privileged and they will be able to use them. But as long as there's that little bit of uncertainty as to exactly what's coming in, what's being kept out, I think that complicates matters and complicates efforts to reach a resolution, because at the end of the day, you simply don't know what evidence DOJ is going to have to use against Michael Cohen.
All right, Tom Dupree, Natasha Bertrand, thanks to both of you for being with us. And next, a new exclusive NBC News report revealing the decision the Trump administration is forcing migrant parents to leave the country with or without your kids. That's next.
My day starts well before I need my blood sugar to stay in control.
I need to shave. Ah, shit.
Weekends are my time. I need an insulin
Crap.
to my schedule.
Traceba is used to control high blood sugar in adults with diabetes. Don't use Traceba to treat diabetic ketoacidosis during episodes of low blood sugar or if you are allergic to any of its ingredients. Don't share needles or insulin pens. Don't reuse needles. The most common side effect is low blood sugar, which may cause dizziness, sweating, confusion, and headache. Check your blood sugar. Low blood sugar can be serious and may be life-threatening. Injection site reactions may occur. Tell your prescriber about all medicines you take and all your medical conditions. Taking TZDs with insulins like Traceba may cause serious side effects like heart failure. Your insulin dose shouldn't be changed without a prescriber. If you have trouble breathing, fast heartbeat, extreme your face, total garbage, or confusion, ask your healthcare provider if you're Traceba ready, covered by most insurance and Medicare plans. Trivago filters by average guest rating based on millions of reviews across multiple websites. So when I read excellent cleaning, I know I can rest easy in my ideal hotel. Hotel Trivago.
I'm only in my 60s. I've got a nice long life ahead. Big plans. So when I found out Medicare doesn't pay all my medical expenses, I looked at my options. Then, Medicare supplement insurance plan.
If you're eligible for Medicare, you may know it only covers about 80% of your Part B medical expenses. The rest is up to you. Call now and find out about an AARP Medicare Supplement Insurance Plan insured by United Healthcare Insurance Company. Like all standardized Medicare Supplement Insurance plans, it helps pick up some of what Medicare doesn't pay and could save you in out-of-pocket medical costs.
To me, relationships matter. I've been with my doctor for 12 years. Now I know I'll be able to stick with him.
With these types of plans, you'll be able to visit any doctor or hospital that accepts Medicare patients. Plus, there are no networks and virtually no referrals needed. So don't wait. Call now and request this free decision guide to help you better understand Medicare and which AARP Medicare supplement plan might be best for you. There's a wide range to choose from.
We love to travel, and there's so much more to see. So we found a plan that can travel with us.
Join the millions of people who have already enrolled in the only Medicare supplement insurance plans endorsed by AARP, an organization serving the needs of people 50 and over for generations. Remember, all Medicare supplement insurance plans help cover what Medicare doesn't pay and could save you in out-of-pocket medical costs. Call now to request your free decision guide and learn more about the kinds of plans that will be here for you now and down the road.
I have a lifetime of experience,
That's just
so
beautiful.
I know how important that is.
You might take something for your heart or joints, but
So take something for your brain. With an ingredient originally found in jellyfish, Prevagen is the #1 selling great health supplement nationwide. Prevagen, the name to remember.
We have exclusive new reporting from NBC News this hour on how the White House is handling family separations at the border. The Trump administration has instructed immigration agents to give those parents separated from their children two options: leave the country with your kids or leave the country without them. This according to a copy of a government form obtained by NBC News. Rights advocates say it would effectively prevent those parents from asking for asylum in the United States. Julia Ainsley helped break that story. She's a national security and justice reporter for NBC News. Jonathan Allen is a national political reporter for NBC News Digital. Thanks to both of you for being with us. Julia, quite a headline here. Take us through the details. Is this something that's being discussed as a possible strategy? Is this something that's happening right now at the border?
So what it is a form, Steve, and I've got it right here. We just posted it on Twitter if anyone wants to take a closer look. But basically, it would give parents who are in detention now, who've already gone through the criminal process, but who might not have finished their asylum claims, to one of two choices. They can either sign here and say they're requesting to reunite with their children or child for the purposes of repatriation. That's deportation. That's going back to their country of citizenship. Or they can say, I'm affirmatively, knowingly, and voluntarily requesting to return to my country of citizenship without my child. The reason they might take that second option, Steve, is if they want their child to have the chance of asylum, if they want that process to be able to play out here for their child in the United States. But if they have the option to appeal to an immigration judge to hear their asylum claim, and then also, as we understand, this form has been given to people who have passed their initial asylum claim and then would be having a case pending before a judge. That doesn't rule out the possibility there could be some people who have simply not been criminally prosecuted and they don't have a final order of deportation. But we know that because that criminal process occurs much more quickly, there's likely a wide gap of people who have that final order but have not been able to get their asylum claim completely adjudicated. So it's a tough choice. These parents are having to decide, leave with their children, or do they leave their children here and give them a chance to become United States asylum seekers?
And yeah, just to make sure we're clear on what's going on, there's sort of parallel things that are happening here, but at different speeds. And one is, you're saying criminal proceedings because you're talking about folks who are apprehended crossing the border illegally. And then the second aspect of that is saying, okay, but they're making an asylum claim that they want to come to this country to escape something where they came from. And you say the criminal one is going quickly, finishing up, and then leaving them with this choice. Is that what this is?
Yeah, that's right. And it's a really confusing place. It's one that we've never really been in before because typically most families who are crossing and claiming asylum were just being charged with misdemeanors. So it's just crossing the border illegally once. And they wouldn't have even gone through those criminal proceedings. But under the zero tolerance policy that Trump started in May, all of those families are separated and they would go through that criminal process. So it was kind of unclear for a while how they would be reunited. This still doesn't tell us the whole picture, how every family will be reunited. For a large portion of them, it seems that they will have to leave the country in order to see their children again.
And Jonathan, meanwhile, the politics domestically, the Trump administration trying to
holding kids hostages to own the libs.
The Democrats and the
That's just fucking wonderful.
And some Democratic elected officials now joining it to abolish ICE, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. The White House tweeting out against Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris, both presidential candidate prospects for 2020. What do you read into what the White House is doing here?
Well, let me just say, first of all, this is really important reporting from Julia and our colleague, Jacob Soboroff. And it ties into this question tremendously because the president has been on a streak of failing to get done what he wants under immigration.
Come on, Wind.
He wanted the separation policy at the border as a deterrent. Then he retreated from that. Now we're seeing it rear up again. And obviously, a lot of those families that were separated still have not been brought together. This difficult choice they're facing. You saw 2 House immigration bills that he had voiced support for go down in the House. This was an issue that was dividing his party. It was one where he was not fulfilling his promises to build a border wall, at least as of yet. Not fulfilling the promise to stop illegal immigration, which he has not done yet, and not getting any movement in the legislature. Now, with the abolish ICE talk from Democrats, President Trump's allies are very excited about the prospects of him taking on Democrats thoughts on this. They want to fight. Some Democrats want to fight on abolish ICE. So does President Trump. I spoke to a former White House official today who basically described it as a gift. What the hell was that?
Jonathan Allen, NBC's Julia Ainsley, thanks to both of you for being with us. And next, we're going to show you the unprecedented number of women running for office. A lot of women in primaries this year, especially on the Democratic side. They're calling it the year of the woman, like 1992, but on a much bigger scale. You'll meet one of them, hoping to become Florida's next governor. That's next.
Shit. Amazing. You're a thoughtful sharer, and you choose Rachel Ridge.
Alright.
Number 10 options with 0 grains. That's amazing. Nutrish. Real recipes, real ingredients, real good.
Do you have trouble falling asleep? Do you toss and turn all night or wake up with a sore neck or headache? And it's time you discovered MyPillow.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Just like you, I had problems sleeping. I tried every pillow out there and nothing worked. 10 years ago, I invented MyPillow. It took me 2 years to develop because I wanted to have everything you would ever want in a pillow. I made sure that you could adjust my patented fill so you could have the exact support you need as an individual, regardless of your sleep position. I also wanted a pillow that would last, so I made MyPillow machine washable and dryable. I backed MyPillow with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee. Not only that, I do all my own manufacturing in my home state of Minnesota. Call now or go to MyPillow.com. Use the promo code on your screen to save over 50% on one of my best offers ever.
Other pillows go flat, causing you to fold them over or use your arm for support, which can cause pain. Hard foam pillows can raise your head too high, making you very uncomfortable. But the revolutionary MyPillow has patented fill that won't go flat and keeps your neck supported and aligned to your exact individual need. MyPillow helps you get and stay in deep sleep all night long.
Before MyPillow, sleeping was a nightmare. First night I got it, slept like a baby. Just out, completely out.
I sleep better. I wake up, I feel refreshed, I feel healthy.
MyPillow helps me get a good night's sleep so I can do my job in the morning.
I personally guarantee that MyPillow will be the most comfortable pillow you'll ever own. And now you can save over 50% on one of my best offers ever. You get 2 MyPillow premiums and 2 Go Anywhere pillows. Call the number on your screen or go to MyPillow.com. Use the promo code and save over 50%.
Don't delay. Get one of Mike's best offers ever when you use this promo code. Save over 50% on Mike's 4-pack. Order now. For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
I want to get a bar put in over there. You know any good contractors? Yeah, I might. Nice! Give me a bunch of quotes, check the reviews, and verify the credentials and qualifications.
You can't expect your neighbors to do everything HomeAdvisor can, so just ask HomeAdvisor.
Your paycheck, your family depends on it. But if something happened to you, you need life insurance. And chances are SelectQuote can get it for you for under $1 a day. SelectQuote found Michael 38, a $500,000 policy for under $23 a month. SelectQuote found Anna 37, a $750,000 policy for under $22 a month. SelectQuote Seeker, they comparison shop great companies like these for your best rate. Give your family the security they need at a price you can afford. Since 1985, SelectQuote has saved over 1 million families millions of dollars on life insurance.
Call now. 1-800-772-8300. That's 1-800-772-8300. Or go to SelectQuote.com.
Discover what over 1 million families know. We shop, you save.
Morning Joe speaks truth to power. He is destroying the Republican Party for years to come with access to the people who matter. From the halls of Congress to the Oval Office. Morning Joe, weekdays 6 to 9 on MSNBC.
If you've been watching our primary night coverage Tuesdays throughout this spring into this summer here, you've noticed a trend here. Really in Democratic politics, competitive primaries.
The other way.
Win them. Maybe
Damn you.
We've been talking so much about races for Congress. Congress. How about races for governor? Is that trend going to continue there in one of the biggest states in the country? So we've had 61 women file to run for governor across the country this year. But how about Florida? That's a biggie that's coming up this summer. And if this trend continues, this is a fascinating race here. Gwen Graham versus Phil Levine, Democratic primary for governor. He's the former mayor of Miami Beach. She's a former congresswoman. They are from completely different ends of the state. He's from sort of the heart of Democratic Florida. She's from the Panhandle. She's also the daughter of Bob Graham, former Democratic senator, former governor, former presidential candidate. And you see, our polling here got them dead even right now. And again, the trend has been
you fucked that up.
Situations like this, the female candidates are on
Stay.
Florida, a Democrat is not one the governor.
Oh my goodness. I'm not paying attention to being in the sand. That was just a regular shot instead of an extra. This one.
Fight here. Adam Putnam, Ron DeSantis, they're fighting on the Republican side. So the question there, it's an interesting
even that's like, damn it.
We always look to
did it again.
bellwether of national power. Our own Abbott Vitaly is a complete
that's just fucking wonderful.
We're down there in Florida. So Gwen Graham is an interesting story here. She's from the Panhandle, from the traditionally Republican opponent state, trying to take on a formidable opponent there in the primary. And the backdrop is there has been this energy among Democratic voters.
Fucking idiots.
And exactly like you said, Gwen Graham is someone who's hoping that she is one of those female candidates who surges ahead come election night. Take a look what she had to say with me over 2 days spent in Florida.
Idiots.
There we go. To become Florida's next governor, Gwen Graham will have to work for it. I'm dripping with sweat. With current Governor Rick Scott running for Senate, this governor's race is wide open, expensive, and crowded. Graham is counting on hard work and grassroots appeal to beat her primary opponents. That's okay. Win in the mid. Perfect, thank you. And that means taking a page from the family political playbook. Doing work days, from building a house for Habitat for Humanity to cooking at a Cuban bakery, laboring alongside Floridians to learn their craft and hopefully earn their votes. It's what her father, former Florida governor and U.S. Senator Bob Graham, did in 1978. I'm running for governor 40 years to the day that my father ran for governor back in 1978. And he has 408, so this is 56, and I'm determined to get to 409. It's a little competition. She plans to log a lot more work days in her race to break Florida's gubernatorial glass ceiling, all while campaigning hard on kitchen table issues like healthcare, gun safety, we're not going in with doing nothing, and what it means to be a leader. You made this a race, a little bit of a referendum on Trump. What's the role that he plays in this state right now? I have said very publicly that I think Donald Trump is an embarrassment, and sadly he continues to confirm my statement every day. But Graham's one term in Congress could get in her way. Gwen Graham is not the progressive she claims to be. With opponents highlighting policy breaks with President Obama, and labeling her not liberal enough to take back Tallahassee for Democrats. I don't believe we should be looking at labels, and labels are just limiting. For me, what this election is about, it's about getting good people, women. I think women bring a different leadership approach. That approach is front of mind here for voters at a women's leadership conference in Orlando. What would it mean to you to see a woman elected governor? Back in 2016, everything. And Graham predicts that now is the time for female candidates. We all feel it, right? We all know it.
Fucking snap this thing.
Is about women. And if voters feel that too, 2018 could be Graham's chance to make her mark. It's so interesting because there's two parts to this. One, she's trying to do this nostalgia factor here with the work days that her father did, thinking that voters really remember that. And then on the other hand, Gwen Graham's trying to capitalize on this pink wave of all the women running for office and exactly those kinds of surges that you were talking about at the beginning of the segment. So we'll see if that's a strategy that pays off. They've got, I think, more than 50 days until this primary, so a lot of undecided voters, a lot of time to see how this race settles. But it's going to be an interesting one.
And it is. I mean, we see it everywhere. It feels like what catalyzed this appetite among Democratic primary voters to nominate women so far is the election of Donald Trump, the defeat of Hillary Clinton.
Well, and it feels that way. We spent some time at a women's leadership conference with her on the second day that we were there, and a lot of the women that I talked to, I asked what it would mean to have a female governor. After 2016 and after what they saw with Hillary Clinton, they feel like
this is at least a way to, in their state, get some control back and at least see that women can make a difference in politics. And frankly, it's something that Graham talks about a lot too. She said to me repeatedly that this is a time where the leadership skills that women have that are particular to women are exactly what we need right now.
It is the face of Democratic politics is undergoing a big change.
See if you can miss this one, you idiot.
On national politics. NBC's Adam Vitale, thank you for that great report there. And we have one more thing for you, right after this.
Still nervous about finding a new apartment? Yeah. But popping these things really helps me relax. Please don't. I'm saving those for later. At least you don't have to worry about renter's insurance. Just go to geico.com. Geico helps with renter's insurance. It's good to know. Been doing it for years. It's really good to know. I'll check them out.
Get to know Geico and see how easy homeowners and renters insurance can be.
I've always looked forward to what's next. I'm still going for my even though I live with a higher risk of stroke due to AFib, not caused by a heart valve problem. So if there's a better treatment than warfarin, I'm up for that. Eliquis is proven to reduce stroke risk better than warfarin, plus has significantly less major bleeding than warfarin. Eliquis is FDA approved and has both. So what's next? See these guys.
Don't stop taking Eliquis unless your doctor tells you to, as stopping increases your risk of having a stroke. Eliquis can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve or abnormal bleeding. While taking Eliquis, you may bruise more easily, and it may take longer than usual for any bleeding to stop. Seek immediate medical care for sudden signs of bleeding, like unusual bruising. Eliquis may increase your bleeding risk if you take certain medicines. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures.
Eliquis, the #1 cardiologist prescribed blood thinner. Ask your doctor. Eliquis is what's next for you.
With Car Gurus, you don't have to know much about cars to know everything about a car.
What are we looking at?
Emma's new car.
Well, used. It's the silver one. Nice. Lunar silver or modern steel?
I don't know which silver exactly, but I use Car Gurus. They have more listings than any other major site. Give each used car a deal rating, and sort the best deals first. And that's a great deal.
Somebody get a promotion or something?
Go to Car Gurus today to find great deals from top-rated dealers near you. Elite Singles, the leading dating site for highly educated singles. Register today to love again at EliteSingles.com.
Welcome to Holiday Inn.
What are you doing, dude?
I have something for you.
Every stay is a special
Crap
stay at
today.
Holiday Inn. Save up to 15% when you book early at HolidayInn.com. If you believe a day in the life of
Crap cutter today.
boredom, and loneliness, take a look at a day in the life of an on-lock Lifeway senior. You'll find wellness, services on site, fun, games, activities, and crafts, independence, transportation to and from your home. With on-lock Lifeways, you've got a team to lean on. Contact on-lock Lifeways now.
Hey, nice job clearing the clog.
Thanks.
Do you know anybody who could repair the water damage in my basement?
Roto-Rooter does that.
Do you guys fix water heaters?
Roto-Rooter does that.
How about a leaky faucet?
We do that.
Disposal repair?
We do that.
I've got to run a few errands, but if you could finish up those pipes, that'd be great. Thanks.
And away go troubles down the drain.
Nice. Okay. And one more thing before we go. Yesterday, we learned of and reported to you the miraculous discovery of a soccer team in Thailand that had been missing for 9 days. They were found inside a cave. The 12 boys and their coach are alive. That was the news yesterday. Obviously, very good news. The story, though, now proving to be more complicated. At this hour, a Herculean effort underway by diving teams, Thai Navy SEALs, and doctors to try to get them back onto dry land. That is because the boys and their coach are still about a mile underground. They are inside a woven chain of partially flooded caves, still unable to get out. Crews are pumping water out while they can, but it's also monsoon season in Thailand. Forecasted rain could elevate water levels by a half a foot each hour. So for now, boys are safe where they are, and officials are trying to hash out a plan to actually get them out of the cave. But that could take several weeks or even months. And an added complication here, none of the boys can swim. So unless experts can find another way, the team will not only have to learn how to swim, they're also going to have to learn how to navigate tight underwater passages while wearing air masks. So obviously a very tense and surprisingly complicated after yesterday's news situation over there in Thailand. Obviously, all of us hoping for the best. That's going to wrap things up for this hour. I'm Steve Kornacki in for Katie Tur, and Ali Velshi is here to pick things up.
That story is unbelievable. At least they can get them supplies now.
Yes, and they know where they are, and
go back and forth. They can bring them food. They just physically can't get the kids out because they can't swim, and they'd have to go underwater and through little
weeks or maybe months. The timeline is
I'm hoping it's days. I can't imagine what these brave young men are going through. Thanks, Steve. Have a good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Ali Velshi. President Trump is heading into the July 4th holiday with a number of fights on his hands. According to the New York Times, Trump sent letters sharply criticizing leaders of several NATO allies. The letters come a week before Trump meets face-to-face with each one of those leaders at the NATO summit in Brussels next week. Then, this morning, in a 4-hour time span, the president went on a Twitter rant about several issues, including the economy and the Supreme Court. Some of them were in line with attacks coming out of the White House's main Twitter account over the past 24 hours. The tweets have been focused on slamming Democratic senators and congressional leaders on immigration and border control. The president heads to friendly territory next hour, though. He's going to West Virginia. It's his 5th time to that state since he was elected. Following all this action, of course, from West Virginia, the president is headed. NBC News White House correspondent Jeff Bennett. Good afternoon, Jeff. What's the situation? What's going on in West Virginia?
Hey there, Ali. We've been talking all day to people in Lewisburg, West Virginia, and here in White Sulphur Springs about the people who are on the president's short list for the Supreme Court. We got a couple of ambulances coming by here. But on that short list, we should tick through them. At the very top of the list, in no specific order, we should say, we got Brett Kavanaugh on the D.C. Circuit. He was the staff secretary under former President George W. Bush. There's also Amy Coney Barrett. She sits on the 7th Circuit currently. She clerked for former Justice Antonin Scalia, and at 46, she's the youngest of the president's top prospects. There's also Amul Thapar. He's on the 6th Circuit. He would be the first justice of South Asian descent. And there's also Raymond Ketledge of the 6th Circuit. We also learned that the president spoke with Senator Mike Lee of Utah today, his Supreme Court pick, although we do not believe that Mike Lee is on the president's short list. But whomever the president ultimately settles on, people here in West Virginia, in the heart of Trump country, say they want the president to pick a centrist. They do not want an ultra-conservative.
One more hill.
Some of the folks the president has nominated to the lower courts. Take a look at a bit more what people had to say today.
Don't do it.
I think he needs
Where are you going?
to see who that person is.
Stop!
And I kind of like what he's been doing, to be honest. He's pretty conservative.
Very nice.
But he's not so conservative that he's unreasonable. Well, no, I'm talking about Joe.
Okay. So West Virginia's Democratic Senator Joe Manchin has a big role to play in all of this, as do some other red state Democrats. Manchin was the first of 3 Democrats to split with the party in Neil Gorsuch, President Trump's first Supreme Court pick. Manchin is now in the throes of a really contested Senate re-election bid, and this is a state that broke for President Trump in 2016 by 40 points. So Manchin has a big choice to make here. Does he stick with the party, or does he support the president as a way of muting the criticism from his opponents who would like to see that seat end up in Republican hands?
This is an important consideration. Joe Donnelly, Joe Manchin, Heidi Heitkamp, all of them under pressure to vote for the president's nominee, and there are some Republicans under pressure not to support a nominee who might support the overturning of Roe v. Wade. So the simple math that a lot of people have in their minds may not be applicable in this particular Senate confirmation. Thanks for that, Jeff. Good to see you. All right, let's talk about a name that's emerging. You heard Jeff mention her as a top contender, Amy Barrett. She's one of the leading female candidates on Trump's list and reportedly already met with the president. Amy Barrett is 46 years old. She's the mother of 7 children and a member of the Federalist Society. That's the organization that is helping the president vet candidates for the Supreme Court. She clerked for Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia and taught at the University of Notre Dame Law School. Barrett serves on the 7th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. It's a position she's held for less than 1 year, which means she's going to face the same Senate should she be nominated to the Supreme Court. They already know her. They've heard from her. She's been vetted by them. Democratic Senator from California, Dianne Feinstein, drew criticism last year during Barrett's 2017 Circuit Court confirmation for questioning whether Barrett's Catholic faith would take precedence over the law.
I think whatever a religion is, it has its own dogma. The law is totally different. And I think in your case, Professor, when you read your speeches, the conclusion one draws is that the dogma lives loudly within you. And that's of concern when you come to big issues that large numbers of people have fought for years in this country.
All right, another cause for concern for opponents is Barrett's affiliation with the religious group People of Praise. According to the New York Times, members of this group who swear a lifelong loyalty called a covenant and are assigned to a personal advisor called a head for men and a handmaid for women. Barrett also wrote against the Supreme Court's decision in upholding the crap in 2017 titled Countering the Majoritarian Difficulty, saying Chief Justice Roberts pushed the Affordable Care Act beyond its plausible meaning to save that law. A 2013 piece in Notre Dame's magazine says that in a lecture series, Barrett said life begins at conception and that Roe versus Wade created a framework of abortion on demand, but that it's, quote, very unlikely that the top court would overturn Roe v. Wade's core protection of abortion rights. However, in a Notre Dame Law School article, Barrett suggested she would not be shy in overruling Supreme Court precedent, saying, quote, I tend to agree with those who say that a justice's duty is to the Constitution and that it is thus more legitimate for her to enforce her best understanding of the Constitution than a precedent she thinks is clearly in conflict with it. This is not somebody who sounds like she is friendly to Roe v. Wade. Joining us more to talk about this is Democratic Senator from Maryland, Ben Cardin. Senator, good to see you again. Thank you for being with us. The president says he's not asking any of these people about their position on Roe v. Wade, but he doesn't have to because the Senate will.
Now, it's good to be with you, but he's working on a list that's been prepared by a group that has an agenda, and that agenda is to reverse Roe v. Wade, protections for women, the Affordable Care Act. They have a clear agenda. So the list that he's using is one in which they believe these judges will reverse precedent and affect your rights under the Constitution.
Senator, what is the best for people who are concerned about this? Because right now there are a lot of issues out there that many Americans are concerned about, but in the end, if Mitch McConnell and colleagues confirm a nominee to the Supreme Court before the midterm elections, a lot of those issues are going to be decided by the court.
No question about it, and that's why we want the American people to focus in on what is at stake here, and that is an independent Supreme Court that will protect your constitutional rights against the abuses of the president, against the abuses of Congress, of corporate America. We want an independent Supreme Court, an independent court that will follow precedent. And what we're concerned about, that this nominee could reverse the balance on the court for a generation to come. So yes, it's about women's rights of choice. It's about with the Affordable Care Act and protection against pre-existing conditions, our environmental issues. There's so many issues that are at risk here. We want the American people to focus in on the person who is nominated by the president, whether that person is just going to do the president's bidding or that person will be an independent voice from mainstream judicial law.
Senator, on June 27th, you tweeted, I can assure you we have not forgotten about Merrick Garland. We know the abuses of the Senate Majority Leader and the Republican leadership. What they did to President Obama and his nominee for the Supreme Court was nothing short of outrageous. It's a sentiment many have expressed. What tools do you have? You cannot forget about Merrick Garland, but what tools do you have at your disposal? Now, the president says he's going to name the nominee next week, and Mitch McConnell says he's going
I'll take it.
Well, clearly the Republican leaders being hypocritical.